I'm 38, a mom of two, and what happened last Friday is still messing with my head. I came home early from work for the first time in weeks. Nothing dramatic, just a headache that wouldn't quit, and the office was dead anyway. My husband, Brandon, 41, works from home, so I didn't bother texting him before heading back. I figured I'd sneak in, maybe take a nap before the kids got back from school. But when I pulled into the driveway, something was already weird. There was a car I didn't recognize parked out front. It wasn't in the street or blocking the drive, just there, in our driveway like it belonged. It wasn't Brandon's or my neighbor's. I thought maybe someone stopped by to visit, but we don't really have visitors during the week, and Brandon's the type to let me know if someone's coming over, especially during work hours. So I walked up, quietly, not intentionally sneaky, just tired and annoyed, trying to avoid the loud crunch of the gravel path. When I stepped inside, I didn't hear anything, just that kind of silence that feels full, like someone hit pause on the air itself. Then I heard voices. I crept a little closer. No shame about it now, and that's when I realized something that made my stomach. One of the voices belonged to Miss Lauren, our daughter Emma's third-grade teacher. I only met her a couple of times in person, one parent-teacher night, and then again at a school fundraiser. She's the sweet, overly nice type, way too put together, always smiling like she's holding in a secret. Blonde, maybe early 30s, definitely single. I remember because Brandon made a joke about how all the teachers look like they came out of some catalog now. But what the hell was she doing in my house? And more importantly, why hadn't Brandon told me? I didn't go barging in, I just stood there in the hallway, hearing the low murmur of conversation. Their voices were calm, not flirty, not arguing, close, like they were talking about something and personal. Then I heard her laugh, soft, not loud, not fake. The kind of laugh you let out when someone says something that's not really that funny, but you want to show them they matter, and that's when I lost it. I walked straight into the living room, and there they were. Brandon standing by the coffee table, and Miss Lauren sitting on our couch, not the edge, not perched politely, sitting back like she'd been there a while. One of her shoes was off, tucked under her. She looked up at me and froze. Brandon turned around like he'd seen a ghost. He stammered something, but I didn't hear it. All I could see was the way he looked at her before he looked at me, that hesitation, like he forgot who he was supposed to be nervous about. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I just walked upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom for 10 minutes. Enough time to try and make sense of what I saw. When I came back down, she was gone. He said they were just talking, but he never told me why she was there. And now he won't stop avoiding the question. Brandon barely spoke the rest of that night, and I didn't push. Not right away. I was too stunned. I kept thinking maybe there was a good explanation. Something innocent I just wasn't seeing yet. She's our daughter's teacher, after all. Maybe it was about school. Maybe something happened, and he didn't want to worry me. I tried to believe that. But here's the thing. I'm not stupid. That silence after I walked in, that wasn't the kind of silence you get when someone's dropping off homework or talking about a permission slip. It was heavier, like it came with history. After the kids went to bed, I finally asked him again. Just straight up, no drama. Why was Miss Lauren in our house? And why hadn't he told me? He looked at me for a long time, like he was trying to figure out which version of the truth I'd be most likely to accept. Then he said, she needed someone to talk to. That was it. No context. No follow-up. I asked him what that meant, and he said she was going through something, and didn't feel comfortable talking to anyone else, which, again, makes zero sense. She's our kid's teacher. She has a whole school of coworkers, friends, family, I'm sure. But somehow, in her moment of emotional crisis, she drives to our house and talks to my husband. I asked him if they'd been talking before that day. He paused and said, a few times. That's how he put it, like it was some harmless thing. I asked him to show me the messages, just to clear it up, prove it wasn't something it shouldn't be. He wouldn't. He said I was overreacting, that I was turning something normal into something ugly, and then he pulled the classic move, flipping it on me. Said if I trusted him, I wouldn't be asking to see his phone, that I was letting my imagination run wild. But here's the thing. I've never had a reason not to trust Brandon before. Never. In 11 years together, I've never snooped, never felt the need to. So why now? Why now did it feel like I was watching a movie and realizing too late that I missed a bunch of important scenes? And then, something even weirder happened. I logged into our daughter's school portal the next morning to check a few things, and Lauren's name, Miss Lauren, it was gone. Just like that. Replaced with a temporary substitute. No announcement, no email, nothing. And Brandon? He acted like he didn't even notice, but I did. So I called the school, and that's when everything started to unravel. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so I was careful with words when I called the school. I said I'd noticed the change on the portal, and just wanted to know if Miss Lauren, the secretary on the phone, got really quiet, like she didn't know what she was allowed to say. Then she said, I'm not sure what we're allowed to share with parents, but Miss Lauren took an unexpected leave of absence. The district is still figuring things out. That was it. No detail, no timeline. Just that vague, polished sentence that says a lot more in what it doesn't say. And suddenly, the question wasn't just, why was she at my house? It was, why did she disappear right after being here? I didn't confront Brandon that I wanted to, but I had this feeling he'd just dodge again. So instead, I waited. I started paying more attention, and the more I watched, the more things started to feel off. Brandon started being weird about his phone. He used to leave it on the counter when he cooked, or set it down on the bathroom sink while brushing his teeth. Now, it's glued to him, always face down, always on silent. He changed his phone password. He never had one before. When I asked him why, he said something about updating work security protocols. But Brandon's job isn't that serious. He manages a team of designers at local marketing. They're not guarding state secrets. Then there was Emma. She's only 8, so she doesn't fully understand what's going on, but she did notice that Miss Lauren wasn't at school anymore, and when I asked if she missed her, got quiet. Then she said something that froze me in place. Miss Lauren said Daddy was her special grown-up friend, but I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. I didn't react right. I just nodded and changed the subject. Inside, I was spinning. Why would a teacher say that to a child? Why would she even talk to Emma about my husband in that way? That wasn't just a casual slip-up. That was intentional. That was a message, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being played, that somewhere in all of this, someone was lying to me, but I wasn't about to keep playing dumb. So I started digging. I found it changed everything. The digging started small. I wasn't trying to become some amateur detective. I just needed to know. I needed something concrete, something that wasn't just a gut feeling or a weird look or a half answer from Brandon. So I went back through our shared laptop. Brandon doesn't really use it much anymore. He's all about his phone and work computer. But a few months ago, he was helping Emma with a school project and logged into his email. And he never logged out. I didn't even plan to check that night. I opened the laptop to book a grocery delivery and saw the little email tab still signed into his Gmail. That pit opened in my stomach. I hesitated, but then I clicked. At first, it was nothing. Work emails, promotions, updates from Emma's school. Then I searched Lauren, and there they were. Hundreds of emails. They started off innocently enough. Questions about homework, scheduling parent-teacher conferences, stuff like that. But the tone changed fast. Compliments, jokes, inside references, late-night timestamps. Then came the photos. Nothing graphic, just intimate. Her sitting at her desk looking bored. A selfie in her car. One where she was holding a coffee cup that said, "Need more than caffeine today," with a wink emoji. Brandon had replied, "I'm always around for your second favorite addiction." That one made my skin crawl. And buried in one of the chains from about 3 weeks ago, there was this. "I wish I could see you outside the classroom more often. That day at the bookstore felt too short." Bookstore? He told me he was at a client meeting that day. I kept scrolling. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't stop. Then I found one that made me slam the laptop shut and sit there in total silence. It was from Lauren, sent just 2 days before I caught her in our house. "You're right, it's risky, but you're the only one I trust. I need to talk, please. I'll come by after school. Just us? Just us." That was what shattered whatever hope I had left that this might all be innocent, because that wasn't a school issue. That wasn't professional. That wasn't normal. She didn't come to our house for Emma. She came for him, and he let her in. No warning, no honesty, not even the basic respect of a heads up. I sat on the floor of our bedroom for what felt like an hour, just staring at nothing. I couldn't decide what hurt more, the betrayal, or the fact that he still hadn't told me the truth, but I was done waiting for him to come clean. So the next morning, before he woke up, I forwarded those emails to myself, and then I made a call to someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, someone who knows Brandon better than almost anyone else. His sister. Brandon's sister Maya and I used to be close, like really close. She was even my maid of honor. But about a year ago, she pulled back. No big fight, no obvious drama, just quiet distance. Canceled plans, unanswered texts, the usual soft fade people do when they're trying not to pick sides in a family situation. But I had a feeling she knew something. She's never been great at keeping her poker face. And honestly, if anyone could give me insight into what Brandon was doing, or who he'd become, it was her. I texted her first, just asked if she had time to talk. She called me 5 minutes later. I didn't even ease into it. I told her I found emails between Brandon and Emma's teacher, that Lauren had been in my house while I was at work, that I had proof it wasn't innocent. Maya didn't sound surprised. She didn't even pretend to be. She just let out a quiet breath and said, "I was afraid this was going to happen," and my heart broke all over it. I asked her what she meant. She said she wasn't sure how far it had gone, but that Brandon had been different lately, distant, secretive, that he started making strange comments during family dinners, things like how everyone deserves to be seen, and some people just don't understand you like others do. At the time, Maya thought he was talking about work. But then a few months ago, she noticed him texting during a barbecue at their parents' place, smiling at his phone like he was in some cheesy high school rom-com. When she teased him about it, he said it was a work friend. But the way he said it made her stomach twist. She said she wanted to talk to me about it back then, but didn't want to cause problems if she was wrong. And now? Now it was too late for warnings. I asked her the question that had been clawing at the back of my mind for days. Has he done this before? The pause was long. Then she said, "Not that I know of, but I've always thought Brandon liked being admired more than he liked being loved." That sentence hit me like a slap, because it was exactly what I'd been feeling but hadn't been able to put into words. Admired, not loved. Loved means work, compromise, humility. Admired? That's easy. All you have to do is keep the illusion alive. I thanked her for being honest, and before we hung up, she said something else, something I can't stop thinking about. Whatever you do, don't let him rewrite this. He's going to spin it. He always does. You know how he gets when someone corners him with the truth, and she was right. Because that night, Brandon finally brought it up, and the version of events he gave me, it was something I never saw coming. Brandon waited until the kids were asleep. Classic move. He came into the kitchen while I was putting dishes away, leaned against the counter like he had something important to say, and said he thought we should talk. His voice was calm, measured, like he was about to deliver a TED Talk on how both of us had made mistakes, and now was the time for healing. I didn't say a word. I just crossed my arms and waited. Then he said something I'll never forget. "I think you've been feeling neglected, and I can understand why this whole thing with Lauren seems worse than it actually." There it was. Not an apology, not an explanation, a reframe. He wasn't just trying to dodge responsibility. He was trying to make me feel like the insecure, emotionally reactive wife who was overblowing a totally innocent friendship. I asked him, flat out, why he didn't tell me Lauren was coming over that day. He looked me in the eye and said he didn't think it mattered, because it was nothing serious. Then he launched into this convoluted explanation about how Lauren was having a hard time, something about a family issue, a sick parent, stress at work, and she just needed someone to talk to, and somehow, coincidentally, magically, that someone happened to be my husband. He said it started with a couple of innocent emails, then turned into texts, and then she showed up after school one day just to talk through some stuff, and when I asked why our daughter's teacher was so comfortable using our house like a therapy office, he shrugged and said, "I guess she just feels safe here. Safe. In my house. With my husband." He kept insisting nothing physical happened, that it was emotional support, not emotional cheating, and that I was jumping to conclusions. So I brought up the bookstore, the photos, the email about meeting just us. I watched his face shift, that moment when someone realizes their lie just got caught mid-air. Then he did exactly what Maya warned me about. He pivoted, said he had felt alone for a long time, that I had been distant, that the spark was gone, and he didn't know how to tell me, that Lauren just saw him. He tried to spin it like it was a marital issue, not a him making secret dates with a schoolteacher issue. He actually said this with a straight face. "You're so good at being a mom. Sometimes I feel like you forget I'm still your husband, like I was supposed to feel guilty, like it was my fault he invited another woman into our marriage and kept it secret." I wanted to scream, throw something, shake him, but I didn't. I just said one sentence. "I read the emails." And just like that, the mask dropped. He didn't even ask which ones. He just stared at me, and then turned and walked out of the room. No apology, no defense, no explanation, just silence. I think that told me more than anything else could have, because when someone's innocent, they don't walk away from the truth. That night, Brandon slept in the guest room for the first time in our entire marriage, not because I told him to. I didn't say a word. I just climbed into bed, pulled the covers over me, and stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. A few minutes later, I heard him grab a pillow and disappear down the hall. No goodbye. No, "I'm sorry." Just retreat. The next few days felt like I was living in some kind of slow-motion dream. We didn't talk unless it was about the kids. Emma had a field trip that week, and our youngest, Jonah, had a cold, which gave us just enough to coordinate around, without ever actually talking. He was pretending everything was fine, that I hadn't found the email, that I hadn't watched my marriage fracture in real time. But I wasn't pretending. I was watching. Every movement, every glance. Every time he reached for his phone, and turned slightly so I couldn't see the screen. I wasn't saying anything, but I was clocking everything. Then, Friday morning, I got a call from the school, but it wasn't about Emma, it was about me. They were conducting an informal review of Miss Lauren's leave of absence. Apparently, a concerned staff member had mentioned something about her having an inappropriate relationship with a student's father, and now the district needed to speak to all relevant family members to understand the context. I almost laughed. When I asked what, exactly, they were trying to understand, the woman on the phone stumbled through some PR-friendly word salad about maintaining professional boundaries, and ensuring the integrity of staff-parent communication. But the implication was clear. Someone had told someone besides me, and now they were sniffing around for damage control. I told them I'd be happy to come in. I had plenty of context. Then I hung up and just sat there. The rage didn't come this time. Neither did the panic. Just cold, sharp clarity. Brandon wasn't going to admit what he did. But now? He wouldn't get the chance to keep hiding it, because if the school was already digging, then it was only a matter of time before this all blew up publicly. So I made a decision. If Brandon wanted to pretend nothing happened, fine. Then I'd be the one to end it for real. I didn't make some dramatic announcement. I didn't scream or cry or pack my bags in the middle of the night. That's not how this ends. That's not how I end things. Instead, I made a quiet plan. Methodical, calm, controlled. The same way Brandon handled everything behind my back. First, I contacted a lawyer, not to file any yet, but to ask questions. I wanted to know what would happen to the house, the kids, the finances. I didn't want surprises. I didn't want another thing slipping past me while I was busy holding it all together. The lawyer, Rachel, was a woman maybe 10 years older than me, and when I told her why I was there, she didn't blink. Not once. I think she's seen this play out 100 times before. She handed me a folder, talked me through my options, and by the end of the meeting, I had a checklist. Everything I'd need if I decided to walk away. Bank accounts, passwords, insurance policies, school schedules, child custody expectations. She told me something that stuck in my drive home. It's always the one who pretends to be the good guy that leaves the biggest crater when he falls. I knew Brandon would fight me on the image, on the optics of it all. Because to the outside world, he's still the charming dad who volunteers at school events and makes pancakes on Saturdays. But now I had documents, dates, emails, a paper trail of lies that I didn't create. He did. And I wasn't about to let him rewrite this into something that made me look crazy. Later that evening, I did something I swore I'd never do. I opened his personal laptop. I'd never touched it before, never cared. But after everything, I had to know if there was more. I didn't need a password. He was careless, just like he was with Lauren. And there, in the downloads folder, was something that made my hands go numb. A Word document titled Letter to L. I opened it, and that was when I realized this wasn't over. Not even close. The letter was dated 3 days before Lauren showed up at our house. It wasn't long, just under a page, but every word of it felt like a gut punch. I don't think he ever sent it, but he wrote it, and that was enough. It started like this. Lauren, I don't know if I have the courage to say this out loud, so I'm writing it here first. I can't stop thinking about the other night. The way you looked at me, it made me feel like someone again. Like I wasn't just a dad or a husband or a paycheck. I was a man, a person. Yours, maybe, if things were different. I kept reading, even though I already knew what it was. You said this was dangerous, and you're right. But what's even more dangerous is pretending I'm happy when I'm not. I go through the motions. I do what I'm supposed to. But every day feels smaller than the last. And then you showed up, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. He didn't mention me by name. Not once. Just her laugh, her eyes, her texts, the things she made him feel. Like I'd been sleepwalking through our marriage while some other version of me, this cold, joyless placeholder, took my place in his eyes. I was the background noise to his real fantasy, and I realized something brutal right then. It wasn't just about cheating. Brandon wanted out, but he didn't want the fallout. He didn't want to be the bad guy. He wanted me to lose it, to push him away, so he could shrug and say, see, it wasn't working anyway. He wasn't just lying. He was building an escape hatch. I printed the letter, one copy, folded it and placed it in a small manila envelope. Then I packed a weekend bag for the kids. I told Brandon we were going to my sister's for a few days, just to get space, let things settle. He didn't ask why. He didn't try to stop me. He just nodded and went back to stirring his coffee like we were talking about the weather. That night, I sent him one text. No emotion, no fighting, just a photo of the caption said, read it again, then ask yourself if this is still worth lying about. I turned off my phone after, and for the first time in weeks, I slept. I didn't expect him to respond. I actually thought he wouldn't respond at all. But the next morning, I woke up to 6 missed calls and a single text. It just said, we need to talk, please. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready, not because I didn't want to hear what he had to say, but because I already knew. The letter said everything. He just hadn't been brave enough to admit it out loud. He wanted me to pull the trigger so he didn't have to, so I gave him space. 2 more days passed. The kids and I stayed at my sister's. Emma kept asking when we were going home, and I just kept saying, soon. I didn't want to lie to her, but I didn't know what home was anymore. Then Brandon sent another message, longer this time. He said he was sorry, that he never meant for it to go this far, that he didn't cheat, not technically, not in the way people define it, but he knew what he was doing. He admitted the letter was real, said Lauren meant something for a minute, but it was a mistake he never planned to act on. I read it twice, then deleted it, because here's the thing. When someone chooses to betray you, the moment they decide to do it matters more than whether they follow through. He already chose her, in his thoughts, in his secrets, in his need to feel wanted more than he wanted to protect me. The school never contacted me again. I don't know what happened to Lauren. Maybe she resigned. Maybe the district quietly buried it. Maybe she got off the hook because nothing technically happened. But I did hear, through another mom, that Lauren moved out of state. Just vanished. Good. I'm not the type to hope someone's life gets ruined, but I am the type to hope they remember mine did. 3 weeks later, I filed for separation. Not divorce, yet. I'm taking my time, making sure I'm clear-headed, making sure I'm me again before I make anything permanent. The kids still don't know the full story, and maybe they never will. But what they do know is this. Mom doesn't tolerate secrets. Mom listens to her gut. Mom knows when it's time to walk away from someone who doesn't know how to hold on to her. Brandon keeps sending messages, hoping for conversation, a second chance, a do-over, but he already had every chance, and he spent it all on a fantasy. So now, he can live in it, alone.